So this theme, soulful spaces, that's really, it's a term I never really heard until I looked at the website. And yet I realized that's what most of my professional life has been about. It's been about the inquiry and the creativity and the collaboration to learn how do we create soulful spaces. And so I want to start by looking at what it actually looks like in a classroom when soul has entered. And I want to use the 7 gateways to the soul of students. This was an image that a young colleague created, these visuals, these graphics, for that keynote 10 years ago. And these images have reached people sometimes in 60 seconds in ways that with words it takes me an hour to explain. So all of these types of experience, deep connection is at the center, which is about deep connection to the self, deep connection to another person, authentic intimacy, deep connection to community in the classroom, deep connection to nature, to our lineage. For some students, it's connecting to their roots and the language of their people, land of their people, or deep connection to a faith tradition or a higher power. That describes so many of the stories and the questions that I have heard students say about what nurtures their soul. Then there's their yearning for silence and stillness, their hunger for joy, their yearning for meaning and purpose, their search, the creative drive, those moments of transcendence that as human beings we long for to enrich our lives. And finally, initiation or rites of passage, young people knowing that there are elders that are willing to step up and actually guide them through the rough but wonderfully opportune transitions in the life cycle. So to me, a classroom is soulful when either it's allowing these kinds of experiences to occur, or it's a place where students can share openly these kinds of experiences that they've had other places, other times in their life. It doesn't have to happen in the classroom, but the classroom is safe enough to share these dimensions of life that the young people themselves say is what nourish the soul. This framework didn't come from a philosophy textbook or a religious framework. It came from me listening to the kids for 15 years, their questions, their stories. So what is it that allows students to do that, to have these experiences or even talk about them? And that takes me into safety. I think there's a certain level of safety that is essential for learning of any kind, even straight cognitive learning, and certainly if we're going to invite the whole person into the classroom. It's my experience and observation that if you don't feel safe in a room full of people, often you can't even feel, let alone know what you feel, let alone express what you feel. If it's really an unsafe space, you shut down, you go numb, you don't even feel. So we want our classrooms to be places that are safe enough for feeling and the expression of feeling. Any kind of learning, whether it's cognitive learning or whether it's the learning that allows us to grow our hearts and our wisdom, involves confusion, uncertainty. Uncertainty for me is my daily diet right now. And I think it's a critical part of learning, frustration. And to be able to tolerate and hold the tension of those experiences and keep going and learning, we need to feel safe, we need to feel held in some way. Inquiry is so essential to learning of all kinds. And that means that students need to feel safe to ask questions they might perceive as the dumb questions, or the big questions that they know really have no answer. And to take risks. An 8th grader I worked with once on the subject of creativity, she said, "Don't you realize that creativity is a risk? There's no way that you can do anything new, anything unique and personal, without taking a risk." And she was saying to me, "And do you think that it's safe to take risks in front of middle school students?" I think it can be, if we know how to create social spaces. So, risk, mistakes, and being able to forgive ourselves, our mistakes, forgive others' mistakes in the classroom, and actually be able to harvest the learning from mistakes and grow from our mistakes. All of these require safety.